Donald Trump and Speaker Mike Johnson at a press conference at Mar-a-Lago announced that House Republicans are introducing a bill to ban non-citizens from voting in federal elections, despite the fact that it's already illegal.
And so what we're going to do is introduce legislation to require that every single person who registers to vote in a federal election must prove that they're an American citizen first.
The federal legislation would require all people who wish to vote to submit proof of citizenship based on a blatant falsehood that non-citizens are voting in federal elections for president, U.S. House, and Senate. A 1996 federal law already expressly prohibits non-citizens from voting in any federal election, including for president, vice president, presidential elector, and members of the U.S. House and Senate. In fact, the Brennan Center notes that under federal law, non-citizens could face up to 5 years in prison and deportation for simply registering to vote. During the press conference, both Trump and Johnson falsely implied that large numbers of non-citizens are voting in federal elections in large enough numbers to sway an entire election.
You know what? The numbers are so high, there's so many millions of illegals in the country, that if only 1 out of 100 voted, they would cast potentially hundreds of thousands of votes in the election. That could turn an election. This could be a tight election in our congressional races around the country. It could, if there are enough votes, affect the presidential election.
Non-citizen voting was one of the many reasons Trump claimed he lost the popular vote in 2016, falsely claiming that millions voted illegally, doubling down on this false claim again and again.
When you see illegals, people that are not citizens, and they're on the registration rolls, look, Bill, we can be babies, but you take a look at the registration. You have illegals, you have dead people, you have this. It's really a bad situation.
Even telling congressional leaders without evidence that 3 to 5 million illegal votes cost him the popular vote. If you can believe it, this isn't the first time that Republican congressional leaders tried to ban non-citizen voting in federal elections, even though it's already illegal. Last year, Republicans in the House introduced the American Confidence in Elections Act, a sweeping voter suppression bill that, among its provisions, you guessed it, would ban non-citizen voting in federal elections. Studies have shown over and over again that this phenomenon is an incredibly rare occurrence. According to a 2017 study conducted by the Brennan Center, a review of 42 jurisdictions in the 2016 election revealed that only 30 votes out of 23.5 million votes were suspected to be votes by non-citizens. In other words, even suspected, not proven non-citizen votes accounted for just 0.0001% of the votes cast. The report concluded with, the absence of fraud reinforces a wide consensus among scholars, journalists, and election administrators. Voter fraud of any kind, including non-citizen voting, is rare. The only instances where non-citizens are allowed to vote are in some specific municipalities, where certain non-citizen residents are permitted to vote for local elections only, like city council and school board. Again, it is a federal crime for a non-citizen to vote for president, Congress, or Senate. Several cities and towns in Vermont, Maryland, California, as well as Washington, D.C. allow certain eligible non-citizens to vote in local elections. The Republican National Committee sued over the laws in Vermont's Winooski and Montpelier, but lost in both cases where they alleged that the laws violate the state constitution. A right-wing group also sued over the D.C. law, but they lost as well. New York City passed a similar law in 2022 to allow non-citizens who are either lawful permanent residents or people authorized to work in the United States to vote in municipal elections. But the RNC and other Republicans sued to block the law from taking effect. A state trial and appeals court struck down the law, but an appeal is being considered by the state's highest court. Currently, the law is blocked in New York City. Here's the bottom line. It is already a federal crime for non-citizens to vote in federal elections. It is extraordinarily rare for this type of voting to occur, or any type of voter fraud for that matter. This bill announced by Trump and Johnson is nothing more than a purely political stunt to promote public distrust in our electoral systems ahead of the 2024 elections. Thanks for watching Democracy Docket. If you want to stay up to date on the latest voting and election news, make sure to subscribe to our newsletters. You can click the link on the screen or in the description of this video. I'm Sophie, and I'll see you next time.